Hello, beautiful family. This is Habib Manjotha from Pakistan, and now today our guest is Mr. Marin. Welcome, Mr. Marin, to the show.
Hello, Habib. Thank you for having me here.
It's my honor that you joined, and I am very thankful to you for accepting my invitation. Uh, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Marin Zhelezov. I'm a medical doctor and a neuroscientist. So I graduated medicine, then went into neuroscience research. Currently, I work in academia, doing some research on the brain's immune system. And I also have a few independent research projects specifically on how to repair the brain, how to help people with brain damage, functional mental health. I've been very interested in these topics for more than 15 years now. And I also have a private practice where I consult people online about functional brain medicine.
Okay, this is amazing. Working in uh, working in the neuroscience, and you are also practicing and serving others in academia uh, to prepare more people to make them ready. And what is your journey? How did you start, and how did you reach here? Because it is so long you are working in this field.
That is actually a very interesting story. So people won't believe me. When the first book which I have ever opened when I was 3 years old, at least the first book which I remember, was called Why Do We Get Sick? It was a children's book, a popular science book aimed at small children, but it was very interesting and it immediately grabbed my attention. And I got, I was a small kid. I mean, 3, 4, 5 years old, and I started asking questions. I started searching for other such books, and my parents, God bless their heart, they started buying me more and more books on biology, popular books, popular science books for children on biology, on medicine. And I started voraciously reading about them. I was very interested. So then I think I was in the second grade when my parents finally were able to find me a microscope. So, my country then was fresh out of communism, and there weren't a lot of things available on the shelves. So it was difficult to find, scientific books and microscopes, for example. But they were able to find me a microscope, and I remember the day, it was late at night when a friend rang at our door and brought a microscope, which we requested from him. So then I started using it, doing experiments. I literally, found other books how to do microscopic experiments, and I was a very curious kid. Then my parents got me a second, better microscope, and it was a natural thing for me to pursue a career in the sciences. Now, why did I choose medicine and not the scientific career in biology? I would say that since I grew up without the internet, and that's a big thing, I did not know that there were broader career options at the time. So I associated biology with medicine. For me, they were one and the same. I got internet pretty late. Maybe I was in the 10th or 11th grade when I first got internet at home. So, I was already preparing to become a doctor. And it was like, it was pretty natural. I never questioned that. It was, this is what I want to do. In the ninth grade, though, I found another book, which was an anatomy book, but it had a chapter on the brain, and I was fascinated. I read that, and it was wow, that's the most interesting thing I have ever read, ever. And then I started getting interested into neuroscience, behavior, psychology. So then I entered medicine. So there were pretty tough exams to enter there. The entrance exam. I prepared for my entrance exams for 2 years. So it took me 2 years of preparation to pass them. And but I studied in medical school like all medical students, but then I got interested in neuroscience and started researching it on the side. And then I was really lucky. Is it luck? Is it destiny? I don't know. But one of the top, absolutely top, world famous Bulgarian neuroscientists. So he has a Wikipedia page. He has huge contributions in a few fields. Professor George Cheldukov. He was my neighbor. I didn't know that. So he lived, right next to me. And one day I saw him in the university, like in the corridor. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know that he was a famous guy. But one day I see the same person on the streets, where I live. And I went to him and told him, I've seen you in the university. Do you teach there? Whatever. And he told me who he was. He said, come over and let's have a drink. And we will talk. And this is how my professional relationship with him started. He taught me a lot of things. He basically opened the whole world of science and research for me. I met a lot of influential people through him. I learned how to do research through him. And through him, I got involved in a few scientific projects as a student. And I liked it pretty much. So then the big question came, since I was nearing graduation, should I pursue a career in science, doing research, or should I continue as a regular doctor, as a clinician, seeing patients and all of that? And that was a big decision. It caused a lot of doubt, a lot of thinking, a lot of anxiety, I would say. Because on one hand, I loved research. On the other hand, everybody told me that it's really difficult to have a career in research, how to make money as a scientist. And the current model for the PhD students and the postdocs, that's not a good lifestyle. And you cannot work on your own ideas that way. So if you're interested, I can tell you more about it. All right, yes. So the current way young scientists, have a career is that they graduate bachelor or master somewhere, and then they try to find a PhD program, which is difficult. Because let's say that you're interested in a specific field, and there are only a few laboratories in the world which work in this field or which have the equipment you need to answer the questions which you're interested in. And they have to accept you, they have to search for new people, which isn't always the case. So you have to compromise with the topic on which your PhD is going to be or the location. You have to make some compromise. But it seems that almost always, there are exceptions, but almost always you have to compromise on the money which you're going to make during your PhD. And that's a fundamental issue. Many laboratories do not give you any money, or they give you just some very small symbolic amount of money. So they expect that you fund yourself, either from having rich parents or from getting some, scholarships, stipends, some private funding, which is a lot of paperwork and it's very small usually. Then you go there and you hope that the people above you, the professors, the principal investigator, your supervisors, they will actually teach you the skills you need for your research, which again, from many talks with colleagues from abroad, it's not always the case. Very often you're just being, let free in the laboratory. You have access to the equipment, but it's on your own to figure out how to use it and whatever. There is a lot of information online, but it takes a tremendous amount of time, to acquire these skills. So you have to. So again, this is a huge uncertainty. Will you find a laboratory where people are going to help you, learn how to actually do science? And then another problem with the PhD is that you have a deadline, so you have to finish it for a certain amount of time, because all your credentials and future career depends on it. Then another risk is whether your experiments would work. For example, in the first few years of my PhD, more than 99% of my experiments didn't work. In the beginning, it was because, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but then it was faulty equipment, expired equipment, especially the chemicals. So, and then just the methodology, the way I approached the question at a certain point was wrong. And then you discover the things which were believed that are working do not work for your question. So that's huge anxiety. You work for 7 days all day in the lab to produce a slide with a slice of a brain to observe under the microscope. You put it under the microscope and you see nothing. So for 7 days you worked for several hours, the whole day. Sometimes we stayed in the lab well after midnight just to produce the samples. It's a normal part of research, and it isn't bad. The bad thing is when your life and career and livelihood literally depend on it working. So if you choose a difficult but interesting question, you're sabotaging your material future, so to speak. So you have to choose an easy question, which is easy to ask. And then you have another problem, you have to publish. You have to publish in high-ranking journals so that your research is being taken seriously. What happens if your results are not worth publishing? Science is like you see a horizon, nobody has ever been there, and you're very interested what lies beyond the horizon. So you pack your bags and you go there as an expedition, and you discover nothing interesting. You don't know, you've never been there. Nobody knows what you're going to discover. But the scientific publishers want to publish interesting things, which are going to get, a lot of views, a lot of citations. This is how they make money. So this is another risk. So as you see, there are a lot of downsides. So many PhD students get burnt out. And the mental health-wise, many scientists, young scientists, are feeling pretty shitty. Because the people who go into the sciences, usually they are, let's say, deep people. They are interested in answering deeper questions. They are borderline idealistic, so to speak. So these people are very vulnerable to such petty issues associated. When you turn your passion into a career, you start hating your passion. With exceptions, of course, but this is an issue. Okay, let's say that you managed to do it. You managed to produce some interesting research, you published it, you managed to find enough funding to survive, you managed to find enough funding to buy all the equipment you need to do your research. Excellent, you got your PhD, now what? Usually, the way the model works, they kick you out of a laboratory and you have to search for a job somewhere else. Now, what is the issue with that? The issue is that for 3, 5, 7, 10, whatever years it took you to finish your PhD, you were located in a certain place and you were 25, 30 at the time. So this is an age where it's time to start a family maybe and, settle down to think about your future. But now you have to move. How to do that? It's not easy. You have to rearrange your whole life. Where to go? You don't know. Let's say that during your PhD, you have acquired a very specific skill in the laboratory. That means that the potential places where people can employ you to use that skill is very small. Maybe like 5, 10, 20 laboratories in the world use the equipment which you can work with. And what if they aren't searching for new people, right? So it's a pretty bad. And usually you find a job to be a low paid laborer for someone else's ideas, which is not how young people imagine science is being done. So it leads to frustration and whatever. Luckily, I was able to escape all of that, right? So I explained all of this to show you why I had anxieties about what career to pursue. Compared to that, a career as a doctor is is very predictable. The things which a doctor does are standardized, so you know what you're going to work with. The procedures, approaches, protocols are now roughly similar everywhere. So whatever you learn, you can work everywhere. You're going to do the same. The demand for doctors is huge everywhere, so you are always going to have a job. Now the pay isn't always good. Some specialties are paid well. If you're already a specialist, for young doctors, the pay isn't always good. It depends on the regions, on the country. But it's more predictable. You have security. The issue there is that, well, I can tell you, for a creative person, someone who constantly thinks about ideas, asks questions, working 70 hours a week with 24-hour shifts, with night shifts, doing standardized procedures and protocols, that's not very interesting. It's interesting the first few times until you learn it. And then it becomes repetitive work. It's the same thing every day. Like, I had a very influential assistant professor in neurology who told me how he invested a lot of time, money, effort, and literally inspiration to start his own private practice. And he said, I closed the office in a few months. And I asked him why, and he said, every day you see these grandmas which are coming to you and are telling you, my head hurts, my back hurts, my head hurts, my back hurts, and this is every day. So he couldn't stand it. So he closed the office and started doing some research on stroke or something, which is, more inspiring. So this was the dilemma. Interesting but potentially very difficult future, or a predictable and easier future but very boring. So both choices were pretty bad. So literally in the last moment, I decided I was preparing to be an eye doctor at the time. So I gathered a lot of experience on the side. I have gotten really good at eye doctor stuff as a student, because I invested a lot of my free time to stay in the eye hospital, learn procedures, diagnostics. I'm not telling this to boast or anything, but I did my homework. I invested a lot of time, but in the last moment, I decided to nevertheless pursue research and stay in my own country, because I got a perfect opportunity in the department where I currently work, because I am surrounded by people who were willing to teach me how to do science, and my job allowed me to have enough free time to pursue my interests. Now the pay is shitty, like, everywhere, at least here in Eastern Europe, but for the time I've been there, I think the positives overweigh the negatives. Now, how I decided to solve the second issue. So now I have enough free time. I don't have a lot of stress, work-related, like working in a hospital with dying people and whatever. So I solved the money issue with starting my online consultations. So for many years, I've been researching ways to treat depression, anxiety, and some brain damage and peripheral nerve damage using holistic functional approaches, whole body, addressing many levels of problems which can cause, finding the root cause of the issue. This is basically what I was interested in. instead of treating people only symptomatically. And yeah, I saw that you cannot make money with scientific projects easily. That takes a lot of time to win a grant, and usually the money does not reach you the way you thought they would reach you, because there are many people above you who will take the larger share. So I said, okay, I will start consulting people, and it worked very quickly. The moment I started offering my services, people just immediately started messaging me, and I am happy to say that I've gotten some miraculous results, like stopping a trigeminal neuralgia in 2 days. When I say this to my colleagues, they don't believe me. Stopping the voices of a schizophrenic patient with diets, and then the voices returned when he stopped observing the diet, and then the voices stopped again when he returned to the diet I advised. Or making a sciatica disappear in 4 days, forever, never to return. Those are very interesting results, and all of them are only with diet supplements. It sounds simple, but the simple recommendations which I give people are based on more than a decade of personal research, like 15 years or so. And I would say that now I have the best of both worlds, so enough money not to worry about it, enough time and freedom to pursue my own research, and the satisfaction of teaching. I currently teach anatomy to medical students. And yeah, I would say that currently I'm pretty happy and pretty optimistic, which wasn't the case a few years ago. Maybe I would let you comment on that, and then I can tell you what advice I would give to a young person who wished to pursue a career in science.
Okay, I got a question. When you were interested in medicine and the things were helping you because you were aligned to that field, was there any pressure from your family? Are there some kind of expectations different from the field you like?
No, my family, my parents are really nice people. They have always supported me. My family are famous musicians. 4 generations. My grandfather, he was like very, very famous. My father is very famous as well. My mother as well. So my brother is a professional musician as well. So all of them are musicians, and they were kindly surprised that I got interest in the sciences, and they try to support me in all possible ways. One example is that when I was young, as I told you, post-communist Bulgaria means that it was difficult to find food, let alone fancy science books. But I saw an anatomy encyclopedia, very high quality, which my father told me that it costed like half his year's salary. So 6 months of the money he makes. This is how much it costed. It was pretty. The book was high quality, pretty luxurious. He found the money and bought it to me. So this is the level of support I got, and they have been supporting me throughout. Always, they say whatever you choose, whatever you like, we are supporting you, and they did so, for which I'm really grateful. Yes.
And what kind of students you were making friends? What were their interests? Your classmates, schoolmates, or the neighbors, the friends around you, the people of your age? What were their interests, and were they supporting you, or they were contradicting?
So if I got your question right, you're asking me about my the other students from my course, about their interests and my relationship with them. Did I got your question correctly? Yes. Well, recently I had a post about what kind of people are attracted to a career in medicine. And I don't know whether you've seen it, but I will summarize. One of my expectations was that in medicine I would find nice people as colleagues, kind-hearted, who want to help others and who are smart and interested in how the body works. This is a very cool combination between intelligence and being a nice person. But I was young and stupid then, right? It seems that some people like that can be found in medicine, but they are not the majority. The majority are people who are not very smart, not stupid either, but doctors aren't the smartest of professions. They are midwits, so their intelligence is between average and high, but not very high, like say a physicist or a philosopher or a mathematician. Smart enough to work. And I met a lot of people with absurdly high self-esteem. I am okay for people having high self-esteem, if it is well adjusted, well directed, But stupid people having self-esteem, arrogant people, no. So medicine attracts a lot of arrogant people, a lot of competitive people, a lot of people who like money and status, people who are not interested either in how the body works or in helping others, but are interested in the status and money which comes with the profession, right? So they are doing it for external incentives instead for, internal interest in the subject. And I saw that medicine attracts a lot of psychopaths as well, literally, clinical psychopaths, because they like seeing others suffer. And in medicine, literally, you can be paid to see others suffer, and you can be paid to cut people, instead of being pursued by the police, for example. So a huge percentage in certain medical specialties, that has been researched. It's not my personal opinion. People have actually researched that attract psychopaths. Is that a bad thing? No, because some medical specialties work with people who are so sick that a normal person would not be able to work there at least for a long time. You'll get burnt out. And having people who have less empathy is actually advantageous because they can work there without losing effectiveness with time. A normal person will get burnt out, will say, no, I cannot take this anymore. A person with less empathy can. And such a person should be motivated by something else, if that is money, status, or just the enjoyment of watching people suffer. It sounds brutal, but it is what it is. I cannot work, for example, in, let's say, traumatology. I cannot work with children with cancer. I won't like working with people with severe burns. You need a different type of person to work there. Yes.
Okay. And what are your future goals? What do you think you want to become, you want to achieve your main purpose of life?
That is pretty straightforward. So I currently am working on first to finish my PhD this year, finally. I've been procrastinating on that in the last 2 years a bit. And then my future goals are basically pretty easy: to have my own university. It's a big goal, which is nice. It can motivate you for a long time. I would like my own academia, and I want to make it the way I always envisioned academia should be like. I want a place where the original view of academia was an institution which should pay smart people to do nothing else but think and transmit the knowledge to others. Right now, it's not like that. Right now, academia, smart people do not have a lot of freedom in academia, either intellectual freedom or financial freedom. and we see that the output drops. There aren't a lot of inventions or anything. So basically, academia should have been something like a monastery where you go there, you're employed, and you're given perfect freedom to develop your intellect, and let's see what happens. Sometimes, so let's take an example of Mendeleev, father of the inheritance and all of that. He was interested in peas, the plant, in peas. So for years he was observing how peas are made. Just a second. He was interested in how peas replicate. So for years he was observing something very small, very insignificant, and that changed the world of biology. This is how academia should be. Now instead, there is the so-called publish or perish culture, where they expect you to produce high-quality scientific publications several times a year. Well, a good idea, a good discovery, a good invention takes years, if not decades, of someone playing with some ideas, experimenting, all of that. And I imagine academia as a place where this publish or perish pressure can be avoided, and really smart people can have the full freedom of developing their ideas, talking to each other. Right now, it's not like that. So this is my dream. How to achieve that? We will see. I have a few plans, a few ideas, a few models. The simplest one would be to, if I get filthy rich, which I'm planning to do pretty soon, and I have a plan, to start supporting some people I already know, like a patron, like in centuries ago, during the Renaissance times, smart people had rich people who supported them. And I want to do that with a few people I already know, because I see great potential in them. And, give them enough money so that they can focus on thinking, so that they don't have to waste time and stress and intellectual powers in trying to survive instead of trying to thrive, right? So this is my next goal.
Okay, I pray for you that you achieve your goals as per your plan. And people in Pakistan, the student in Pakistan and everywhere in the world, they want to pursue their career in medicine or sciences, but sometimes they are not interested, like you already told, they are not interested for the purpose, for their inner satisfaction. They see different benefits attached with this field. So, what do you suggest to them that how they should change their plans, how they can follow their this lucrative path side, or how should they work with other people who are genuinely interested in the field, and they should support them, just like you expressed before.
Well, I don't think that you can nourish genuine interest. So someone who is not interested, someone who is doing it only for the money, there is no way for this person to become interested in it. I'm not against people doing any job just for the money, because the amount of people who are genuinely inspired by something is small, right? So we also need people who are doing it for the money, as long as they're doing it right, okay? There are other professions which bring more money with less effort than medicine. So that's my first advice for these people. I'm not shaming them that they're doing it for the money, quite the contrary, as I explained. But keep in mind that if you don't have passion for something, the moment it gets hard, you will feel bad. And if you have invested a lot of time and money in your education, you may not be able to go back, right? So this is the big trap here. Medicine is hard, really hard. The studies are hard. If you're not interested, it is very difficult. So as I said, there are easier ways to make money than medicine. Yes.
A couple of months ago, I visited a doctor, and she told that she was not interested in medical field, but her father was interested, and he wished that my daughter should be a doctor. So I pursued this career. So does it seem funny to you?
Not funny at all, because I know a lot of students who had the same issues, whose parents forced them to study medicine because they thought that it was, prestigious or whatever. And the saddest thing is when you see people who are forced by their parents to study medicine and their parents aren't doctors, so they have no idea what it is like. And now I've seen one person who is graduating and she cannot find a proper job. It's very difficult to land a residency spots to specialize. The money is poor. They also often require you to not only have a lot of night shifts, but also be on call for other departments because there aren't enough doctors now. So it's literally, young doctors are forced to work in at least two places at once by the hospital because there isn't enough staff, whatever. So, and now her parents realized that they made a mistake because she doesn't have a lot of options. And so 6 years, that's a lot of time. 6 years here in Europe, the studies are 6 years. 6 years, that's a lot of time, especially when you're young, because you're young only once. And your youth then is wasted studying, and then your youth is gone, and you don't have a lot of options in front of you. That's a trap which not many people can escape from, right? So it's an important decision, which if you think that you want to be a doctor, the first thing to do is to spend at least a month with a doctor, not going for 2 hours a day, seeing the interesting things, spending the entire day and night with him. When the doctor is spending 4 hours writing, you spend 4 hours writing as well. See whether you can do it for a month. Maybe if you like it, go for it. If you don't like it, because people are watching medical shows like Grey's Anatomy or whatever, and these shows totally are not objective. For example, in Grey's Anatomy, the doctors looked pretty good. They were beautiful, handsome, and most doctors aren't because of the night shifts. And in Grey's Anatomy, they had a lot of time for romance and affairs, all of that, and most doctors don't have time for that as well. And when you said Pakistan, one of the people, for example, which I want to support, if I have the opportunity to do so in the near future, is from Pakistan. So he's a young person. I think he's in his first year of medical studies, and he already has written like half a book on epigenetics, and he has presented very interesting ideas there. So it's not a trivial book. He actually has groundbreaking ideas which he is able to support. So very high quality research, and that's the type of talent which I want to support.
Okay, we have talked so much serious things, so we should change the topic. What dishes in food? What food do you like more? Tell me three things.
Well, I don't know what to say here, really. I don't have favorite dishes. So I cannot answer this in an interesting way. I like some of the traditional dishes for my country, which even if I say their names, they won't mean anything. But let me think about something really special. I know No, sorry, I cannot answer this in some interesting way. No.
Okay, don't worry. We can skip to the other question. How many countries have you visited till now?
Very few countries. I haven't traveled a lot. I never had time and interest or money. I grew up in relative poverty, and especially the 2008 crash hit my parents hard. So I was pretty poor as a medical student as well, and then I was pretty poor as a young doctor as well. So only recently I was able to find a way to generate enough income. So I plan to travel in the future after I finish my PhD. Luckily, some of my Facebook friends are coming over to visit me. So yeah, well, a few times it happened. Another friend is coming in a few days. So instead of traveling for now, interesting people have coming over. I visited Italy for a conference for 2 weeks and it was amazing. South Italy, Southern Italy. I really liked it there. Um, the people were really nice, and you go to a shop and the shopkeeper opens a bottle of wine and pours a glass and says cheers. Then he shows you pictures of his kids. It was a really nice feeling. I worked for 3 months in Germany in a hospital. This is when I decided that I don't want to work in a hospital. It was a valuable experience. And I visited a few other places for a short amount of time, but I've never had neither time nor opportunity to travel, which is something which I have to fix in the near future.
Oh, okay. And the next question I want to ask, what are three personalities in the world you are impressed by or you want to become like that?
Then I can definitely answer, but I have to think for a second. I'm very inspired by the scientists at the beginning of the 20th century. I cannot give a name, but people like Pasteur and the biologists at the time. They look like people who are so determined to answer scientific questions, and people like Robert Koch, who 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 was very influential in researching cholera, who literally drank diarrhea from a choleric patient to show that cholera is very difficult to transmit. So he literally drank shit to show it. He was very motivated to do so. And the person who discovered that Helicobacter pylori is the cause of stomach ulcers, which that's a very recent discovery, happened a few decades ago. I think he was Barry Marshall. I think he also drank a jar of Helicobacter pylori to show that he'll get an ulcer, and he got many ulcers doing so. So those are people who are so motivated, so burning with passion for their creative work that they are even willing to risk their lives for it. It's rare to see these things nowadays in academia, where people are focusing more on career and publications and all of that. So I cannot name three people, but what the people who have been inspiring me are the scientists at the beginning of the 20th century.
Okay, it is great to know you and your plan. And do you have any advice to medical students? The final words they can they may seek as advice for their career, the career.
They have to be honest with themselves whether they like doing something or whether they like reading about a subject, especially when choosing a specialty. Many specialties are very interesting theoretically, but when you actually work with the patients, it's a whole different story, right? So that's crucial. The second thing is, first you have to decide: do you want to do science or do you want to work with patients? If you want to work with patients, then in the clinics. Then if you want to work in the clinics, you decide: do you want to work with patients or in a laboratory, like clinical laboratory, pathology, microbiology, or even radiology, the specialties which do not directly work with the patients. Then if you decide that you want to work with the people, you decide, do you want to work with old people or young people? Very few specialties work with, both. And, this is a very simple framework which can help you navigate what to do. But I would rather give advice to young people who want to pursue a career in science, because I have more experience there. And right now, I would tell them, if possible, not to pursue the standard approach with PhD and postdoc, because you won't be able to do science that way. So you won't have a life or career or even do science. Some do, but those are exceptions, Some, if you want a career in football, some football players make a lot of money, but most make nothing. Or if you want to become a rock star, right? Some become rock stars and make a lot of money, but most musicians end with nothing. Same with the science. If you want to actually do science, I would say find another way to make money and do science independently. And the best way I thought about it is to, at least it was the best way before ChatGPT came, is to learn data science. Because the skills in data science are the same skills you would use to analyze your scientific data. So learning data science allows you to both have a high-paying job, even as an independent data scientist, if you wish. And if you pull it off, you can also use the same skills to do your own research. You can find a way. So the best way is to have skills which can allow you to have an independent income, and preferably in a way which will allow you enough time and energy to spend on science. Another example, there is this British psychiatrist and independent neuroscience researcher. His name is Ian McGilchrist. He has very interesting books on the brain. So he works for 2 days a week as a psychiatrist, and the other he makes enough money, from his private practice, and during the other 5 days he's doing independent research, reading and writing books. That's one way to do it. You can study psychology, which should be less brutal than studying medicine, and maybe takes less time, and start consulting people that way. Or you can go into digital marketing or anything which can generate income, leaving you enough time, to be flexible, to do your own research. And if your research requires laboratories and all of that, you can always volunteer in some laboratory. Most people will welcome you and work with them. But you should find a way to make money in some other way. So do not depend on your scientific career for money. It's very difficult to pull it off. You'll waste a lot of time. You'll get frustrated and burnt out.
Okay, that was very great. And I am very thankful, Marin, that you joined me. I am I am thankful to you for your generosity, and we will meet in another podcast, inshallah, very soon. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Please comment, like, and share this video, and tell us what did you learn from this video. Thank you so much for